And we should be live any moment. There we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Bar 911-970. And as always, I'd like to start out my shows by thanking everybody for taking the time to listen, whether you watch it live or days, weeks, months later. It's always appreciated, so thank you. It is 1:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 21st of April 2017, and I thought I would change up some of my videos that I've been doing lately and kind of go back to my roots. And I want to wait a second or two before I start because I want to make sure people know that this is going on. So, purpose. As you can see, it says noun, the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. Now, one of the biggest things in probably most of our lives, if not all, is, especially growing up, we find it very difficult, and we tend to go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of heartache, a lot of loss, and we tend to beat ourselves up over it. We can sometimes turn to drugs, we could sometimes turn to alcohol, we sometimes turn it into an internal anger that we can't seem to get rid of. And we tend to ask the question, well, why is this happening? But then we never search deeper into that question, because that is probably one of the best questions you can ever ask. And I've said it on several occasions on my videos, the question of why. Now, once you ask that question, the best thing for you to do to help have that answered is to not just sit around and wait for something to happen. Like they say, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And I'm going to give you a little background from me in case you're new to my channel. I mean, my life hasn't been easy. My parents got divorced when I was 10. A year later, my mother started dating this gentleman, and I use that term loosely, who was an extreme alcoholic, which of course we didn't learn until later on. But when I say extreme, I mean he would walk home because he would just not be able to drive and just park his car anywhere in the middle of the road and just drop it off there and not remember where he left it, punching holes through walls, screaming, yelling, throwing things. I mean, never physically harmed us, but the mental abuse was extreme. Now, growing up, like many people who had abusive childhoods or bad situations in their life, they're always asking the same question. Well, why did this happen? Why is this happening? And we never really stop to think why. And I think because as we are learning through life, we don't have the one thing that we need, which is experience and also wisdom, because wisdom comes through experience. So we can't really answer the question because we can't think that deep at that time. And it usually is when we are older, where we gain more experience and can able to process things, we think of the things a little different. So I want you to think of what happened in your life in a different way. And instead of beating yourself up for it, or feeling depressed, or feeling there's nothing you can do, appreciate why they happened and what it created. Because the main thing to ask yourself on any situation is, did you learn something from the experience? Because nothing impacts you more in life than something negative, because you tend to never forget it. I'm sure most of you probably don't remember your 7th birthday unless something tragic or dramatic happened. Now, I'm sure on your 7th birthday, you probably had a lot of friends and family. You probably had plenty of cake and presents, and you probably had a very fun time, but you probably don't remember it. Unless you're watching this and you're 8 years old or 7 years old. I doubt that. But if, for example, when you were 5, if you were hit by a car or you saw an animal get hit by a car, you probably still remember the sounds that happened at that exact moment. So a negative situation will impact you, and it leaves an imprint in your mind, which means you're not supposed to forget about it for a reason. Now, as I started in my kind of scenario, yes, at 10 years old, it's very depressing to know that your parents got divorced. I mean, my sister was 6, I was 10. We were very sad about that. We were very confused because you think your parents are going to, stay together forever. And my father basically disappeared. After 3 or 4 years, he got remarried, and then about 3 or 4 years after that, he moved away. And I saw him probably 6 or 7 times in my life until he died in a fire in 2012, moving back to reconnect with me. Now, I don't feel depressed about it because what did it teach me? Well, with my parents getting divorced, it taught me about reality of life, that things don't always have to happen the way you want it to. There's not always a happily ever after. And it taught me to be more independent. Now, with an abusive, I can't say stepfather because they never got married, but I mean, I was mentally abused almost on a daily basis. And I stayed with my mother until I was 26 to protect her, because he never got physically violent, but there was always that case of what if. And I was very protective of my mother because she's 4'11", little Sicilian Italian. She's a tough one, but this guy, I've seen him fight 3 guys at once. Not a nice person, and unfortunately for himself, he died years ago through his own abuse. Now, what did I learn from all the abuse from this person? Now, I'm talking about abuse of at 10 years, well, actually 11 years old, him hiding his porn under my bed and finding it. That's not something an 11-year-old should experience. I've had my head rammed through a wall when I was graduating high school. That's when it got physical. He would definitely tell me how much he didn't like me when he was extremely drunk. But then he'd feel guilty and hand me money. I always thought that was cool because that was the only time I liked him when he was drunk, is that he'd always give me money. And back then I didn't know currency the way I do now. He put shotguns to my head. I mean, it was pretty bad. So why don't I feel depressed about that? Why am I not abusive to others? Because what did it teach me? It taught me what I don't want to be. Because before he came into our lives, I was in an area of town where we used to get into fights with kids all the time. I was hanging out with some of the more hoodlum type of kids, and they would throw rocks at houses, throw rocks at cars. We were the type that would throw snowballs at cars going by. My parents didn't want me to hang out with certain people, but I mean, there weren't a lot of children where I lived, and my best friend at the time, his name was Rob, lived across the street. So, they stole my mother's Christmas ornaments that she put outside all around the lawn. So I was with some really bad people, and if I would have continued down that path, who knows where I would have been. I would have probably been in jail. I would have probably been a hoodlum. Like two of my best friends at the time, they definitely served time in jail. But I separated myself because my parents moved, and it was very sad. But what did the abuse that I had to deal with, what did it teach me? It taught me not to be like that person. I wanted to be the opposite of what he was. Now, at the time, you're going through the suffering, you're going through the pain, you're going through the abuse, both physically and mentally. It's hard to kind of think in that way. But now that I look back, if it wasn't for that person in my life, I would have not experienced how much I hated the hatred. And who knows what type of person I would have become. And that's why, like some people say, Chris, you're very defensive, you're very emotional. Well, I've spent my almost entire life having to defend myself or having to defend my mother. So when people attack, it could still trigger. And I think that's another purpose of why I was attacked so much by the trolls. And what I learned from it over the years, where it got a little bit easier and easier, but like they say, old habits die hard until you realize them, because you need realize to realize that I was still being confronted with something that I had to defend myself with, instead of realizing that I don't have to, that I can think of a different way, that the purpose of it is to help me stay strong and trust in my values. Because if you see my videos, and especially if you've been around since my old channel, Barn on 11967, I was called crazy a lot for things that I talked about, which now even people like President Trump talk about, talking about the fake news and how it's all full of actors. I mean, he hasn't gotten that far. But there's a lot of things I've talked about that ended up being true, even though many people attacked me, ignored me, and abused me for it. But if I learn why did that happen, it was so I could finally learn to trust my instincts, despite how many people don't agree with it. And if you see what happens in your life as a purpose and you look for the reason of why it happened and what did you learn from it. I mean, there are people, I'm going to give you a prime example. Let's say you're living alone right now. You're in a situation that you don't really want to be in. You're not happy. Things are not going well. But you're there. Somehow you got yourself there. Because it's all about free will. We always make the choice. Now, let's say you have an animal you absolutely love. Or let's say you just have something in your life you absolutely love, and it's the only thing in your life that's good. Well, if you changed your life in any way, and you could have a better life but lose the very one thing that you absolutely love, would you do it? So think about that. Think about the love you have for your partner, or an animal, or whatever. And the slightest change would take that away from you. Then are you really in a bad place? To me, one of the things I've learned about being a massage therapist since 1996 is that pain, physically, is a warning signal. It's to tell you something's wrong. And the more you ignore it, the worse the pain gets. It's almost like you're sleeping in your house and there's smoke in another room that you don't realize. And somebody walking by sees the smoke, so they start tapping on your bedroom window nice and quietly to try and wake you up. They see you sleeping, so they tap on the window. If you don't respond, they're going to start tapping a little bit louder. If you don't respond, they're going to start banging on the window. And as they see the smoke turn into flames, they realize they got to do something. So eventually they smash through the window. Now, you'll probably wake up at that point wondering what the hell's going on. You're not going to be knowing what's your surrounding. You're just going to see some strange person basically break into your house. But you don't realize that person's there to save your life. So yes, you have a broken window, and yes, there's a fire, but at least you're alive to repair it. So pain, physically and emotionally. You ever wonder why when you don't treat the things that are causing you pain, how things keep getting worse? Like, you'll say things like, oh, this always happens to me. It's because somebody's banging on that window and you're not waking up and they're trying to save you, and they need to get louder and louder until they get to the point where they smash through that window and drag you out of your house. So if you're experiencing pain, think about what is the purpose of that pain? What warning signal is it sending me? What is it that I am not paying attention to? What lesson can I learn? And if you see pain in that way, you will never see it as a negative thing again. Because, for example, if you have a little stomach cramp, you might think, it's just gas or just, cramps. I'll get over it. But if it keeps getting worse and worse, if you leave it untreated, you could eventually die from it. But as it gets worse and worse, you go from, I'll let it pass, to all of a sudden having concerns. And you end up going possibly to a hospital to find out it's something serious. And if you catch it early enough, you can fix it. So look at pain in a different way. Think of pain as a warning signal, a flashing light, the hello McFly moment. Go through your life and the things that caused you the most pain and see what did I learn from it? Did it make me become the person that I am? And if you like who you are, then how could that have been bad? Because sometimes in life, we have to be shown what we don't want. Now, how do we know we don't want it if we don't experience it? It's like food. How do you know you don't like something until you try it? But if you've never had it in your life, you'll never know what the experience is. So if you ate a cherry for the first time and you don't like it, you could say, well, I tried it. But if you try it and you love it, then you're very glad you did. So the whole thing is life presents yourself with things to teach you to become who you are. And a lot of it is negative stuff because one, you'll never forget it, and two, you'll see, I don't want it. So when I was getting attacked by all those trolls, and to this day I still have people that just assume all these negative things about me based on rumors about what other people say and a couple of chopped up videos, I used to get, and to this day still get, defensive because that was part of my life. But then I realized all of that stuff throughout my life was teaching me to become independent and strong. And I was afraid to realize that. And I kept having to defend myself from people that I don't know, and then in the grand scheme of things don't really matter to me. So if it builds my confidence, if it builds my independence, if it builds my strength, if it builds my ability to trust in my own heart, in my own feeling, in my own emotion, then it served its purpose. So the next time you feel depressed, the next time you feel sad, the next time you ask, why does this keep happening to me? Think about what is it that's still happening to you? What is it you need to learn? Because here's the ironic part. Once you learn from that pain no longer has a purpose, and it no longer needs to be in your life, or it will no longer affect you in your life the same way. Prime example, I'm sure when you were a child, you fell in love with somebody, and you probably thought you'd live the rest of your life with that person. And somewhere down that line, that person left you or hurt you. And you probably said, oh, I'm never going to date again. Or I'm going to kill myself from it. But you didn't. And I'm sure years later, when you met 20 other people, 50 other people, or met another person, you spent the rest of your life with that person, those feelings that you had for that first person, you don't feel about that anymore. Think about the first love that hurt you. Now, does it affect you the same way as it used to? Time does heal all wounds, even though ironically there is no real concept of time. So if you see the purpose behind things that happen to you, and you see pain as a learning tool, if you choose to ignore it, then you will continue to experience it worse and worse. And what does society in this world teach you? It's not your fault. Let us take care of you. Go seek professional help. Now, obviously, some people may benefit from professional help. I'm not going to sit here and say if you believe that can help you, then by all means, please do. But this world teaches you that you're not responsible for your actions. Let other people take care of you. Nobody knows you better than you. No textbook is going to be able to describe you. It may describe people who have similar situations than you, but you can have 1,000 people have the same situation and through their own personal perspective, view it or feel it in a whole different way. So how can anyone else tell you what you know about you? The question is, can you build up the strength to fix your own problems by seeing what you learned or what you could learn from a painful experience instead of praying to a god or going to a psychiatrist or taking a pill or abusing somebody else because it's easier? And that's why people that are abusive stay abusive. Like, again, my examples of my trolls. The trolls that hate me now, some of them have hated me for years. So even though I've changed, they continue to be the same angry person. And in a way, I feel sorry for them. And for a long time, I was very defensive because of them. But now that I thought about it and thought about why and what I can learn from it, they will never affect me the same way ever again. And that doesn't mean they're going to stop. They have to deal with their own anger, their own hatred, their own reason and purpose behind doing evil. But like an ex-girlfriend that I haven't had anything to do with for years, the feelings are no longer there, and it doesn't affect me the same way. So think about that in your life. Things may not change around you, but if you change, those things will never affect you again the same way. But if you keep looking outward for a solution, is it any wonder why you never or rarely ever find it? Like in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy had the power to go home all along. They say that in the movie, which means at the very moment that the house lands in the land of Oz, if she knew her own inner strength, she could have gone home right there. But she had to go through her trials and tribulations to experience heart, to experience courage, to use her brain, and go through all the experience of life to create that wisdom. So when she was told she had the power to go home all along, she didn't automatically dismiss it. So the beginning of that movie is a person just starting out in life. They don't know what's going on. Just imagine if you went up to a 5-year-old kid and told them about just 10% of the things that I talk about on my videos. They wouldn't be able to understand it. They think you're crazy. They just ignore it, or it might drive them crazy if you put too much information with people. They might not be able to handle it right away. So as she's going down the yellow brick road, she experiences heart. She experiences brains. She experiences courage and gathers experience. So at the end of the road, when she was confronted with the fact that she had the power because the wizard couldn't bring her home, the good witch of the north couldn't bring her home, she had to bring herself home, but she had to realize it and understand the purpose of what she was going through in order to accept what she couldn't have in the beginning. So that is why we experience pain for the most part as a youth. And we don't fix it because we don't know how. And since the world teaches you to go to therapy, to take medications, to have other people handle it, and it's not your fault, you're always looking outward. And if you're very religious, they say, oh, just go to church. God will save you. Well, how come in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you're still doing the same thing, still feeling the same pain, still having the same negative experience? It's because there's a reason why whatever your creator is and whatever you believe in, the reason you have free will is because free will means you have to do it yourself. If God was supposed to do it for you, or whatever God you believe in was supposed to do it for you, then there would be no purpose of having free will. They'd just do it. So think about that. You were given free will to experience life in any way you want. So for some reason, if your life continues to stay negative and you refuse to look at it in a different way, then that means your purpose right now is to experience that pain for some reason. But that doesn't mean the world will change because you change. It just means it will not affect you the same way. So I hope you look at your life in a different way and take responsibility for your own choices, because every choice you make puts you on a different path. And that's why I tell people all the time, if you want real change in this world, you can't wait for somebody else to do it, because you'll always be waiting. You have to take charge. But remember, everything you do, and I mean everything that you do, puts you on a different path. And if you're listening to this right now, and you've been listening since the beginning, or something that I say resonates with you, that means you are here for a reason. There is no coincidences. Even if it's on a subconscious level, something drew you here. And that's why I tell people, we are made of light. We are made of energy, and energy is attracted through magnetism. That's why you're attracted to people. We just don't see it, and we're not taught it. But if you know it now, that means through your wisdom and through your experience and through whatever trials and tribulations you've gone through, it's brought you to this point to where you are getting that much closer to enlightenment, to a better way. So let the haters hate, because they will forever stay angry, because they never are brave enough and strong enough to look in themselves to change the very thing that they seem to enjoy. But again, it's free will. So if you want to spend your life on medication, if you want to spend your life on your knees praying to somebody else to take care of you, if you want the government to supply everything that you need, there's going to be consequences for those things. Because again, if there is a creator who wanted to give you free will so you can experience anything in life, including what you don't want, how could that individual or individuals change your life for you when they've given you free will to do it yourself? There are going to be people that have motivations that are not kind, but you don't have to accept it. And if you've had bad situations happen, like they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Sometimes we have to be fooled dozens of times before we get it. But better late than never. So the next time you think about the pain that you experienced, or the pain you are experiencing, look at it at a deeper level. Think about what is it you can learn. Because if you're a kind, caring person, and a lot of people that come to my channel for the right reasons tend to be very caring. That's why they're not selfish and they don't want to just think about themselves. They tend to do things for other people. Of course, you have to do things for yourself, because if you spend your whole life doing things for others, how are you going to eat? How are you going to get anything to keep yourself to survive? So there is that selfishness a little bit, but the average person here is very kind-hearted, very generous, very giving, very loving. They tend to have a lot of animals. They tend to care about what's going on in the world. They want to change it. They don't like the way things are. Now, what if when you were a child, you were given a magic lamp, and you can rub that lamp and a genie comes out? And a genie says, I will show you your future. Your future is full of pain. You're going to go through a lot of heartache. You're going to doubt yourself. You may even want to die. But eventually, you will learn a lesson, and you will be happier than you've ever felt, because you put in the time. You learned your lesson, and you became a very kind, generous, caring, loving person from it. But you're going to have to go through years of pain. And if you want, I could make that never happen. Would you change it? Because just imagine if that genie erased your future the way it is now. That kindness, that caring. And he gave you millions of dollars. And you were just spoiled rotten. And you became this evil, corrupt, selfish person who in the end died alone. Would you really want to change who you are deep down? The caring, loving person? Because the only way you could really become caring and loving is be faced by so much hatred and evil that you say, I don't want that. So it served its purpose. One of the reasons why it may be still happening is you're not focusing on the good that came from it and being proud of who you are. Because you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everybody like you. I mean, look at all these celebrities. famous people. They can make videos, for example, some of these people on YouTube, they make the most ridiculous videos, and they can say the most ridiculous things, but thousands of people will cheer them on. They'll love every word that they say. And people like us, who are not famous, who are not popular, can say the most mind-changing, beneficial things, and hardly anybody will care. But here's the thing. Would you rather be those people that have millions of fake people around them that only care about what they can provide or offer them, or be around one person that truly loves you? Which is more important? Millions of fake friends who will never be there for you and are always trying to get something from you, but you have a lot of people making you feel good? You ever wonder why bullies tend to come in groups? It's because they need the energy of all of their combined hatred and evil to be able to be brave enough to handle one person. So think about that. And that's one of the things I had to understand or understand about myself when it came to my trolls here. It took them all ganging up on me to face me alone. And yes, somebody may be able to physically overpower me. I mean, I'm 46 going on 47. I'm married. I have better things to do than to get into fights, even though I wanted to years ago. That serves no purpose to me, because even if I win, what did I really win? Beating up some stranger? Or getting beat up by some stranger? How is that fulfilling? But you'll notice in life, it takes several people, and that's why governments, they need to stick together. That's why the media needs to stick together. That's why corporations tend to work together. It's because they need all of their combined energy to match yours by yourself. And that's why I don't need anybody trying to save me. Nobody can save me but me. And that shows how strong you are. If you could face adversity from several different directions and several different people, that means all of their energy combined, at very best, is matching yours alone. How powerful does that make you feel? And while you're trying to save animals, while you're trying to change the world, while you're trying to give love and peace and friendship, there are people that are destroying it, people that are hurting it, people that are making fun of it, people that get pleasure out of seeing pain. Would you want to be those people? Because maybe they experienced a whole different life than you. Maybe they grew up with having everything that they ever wanted. You ever wonder why wealthy people keep wanting more and more? Most of us, if we won $5 million from the lottery, we'd probably quit our jobs and think, wow, that's great. I don't need any more. You're not going to sit there and say, boy, how do I turn this into 10 million? How do I turn that into 20 million? How do I turn that into 50 million? No, you're just happy with what you had because you didn't have it before. But you notice these billionaires, they have to have, oh, I need to be the hot one with the most money. I need to get more. I have more money than I will ever need and my family will ever need, but I need to get more. So in other words, they have a hole in them that keeps needing to be filled. It's a black hole that never gets filled. That's why they need more and more and more, and they will step on and walk over everybody to get it. People don't love them, they fear them. Is that the type of person you would want to be? I wouldn't. So do you really want to be envious of people like Bill Gates or Donald Trump or any of these Rothschilds or Rockefellers or JP Morgans in the world? Yeah, they got plenty of money, but look how torn down they all look. Look at their faces. Is that what you want to be? How it physically wears you down? How people don't love you? Well, they'll pretend to love you, or they might love what you can offer them. One of the things I loved about my life, about being poor from the majority of my life, is the fact that when people came into my life that wanted to be around me, they didn't want to be around me for what I could provide. They wanted to be around me for who I was. That's one of the major things I love about my wife. I've been struggling for the past, I would say since 2008, when the financial problems were happening for all of us around 2008, when the bubbles burst. My wife has been here with me through thick and thin. She even helps me out through the times where I can't be as supportive as I want to be. But it just proves that she's not here because I'm some millionaire who could just support her and provide her with everything that she needs. She's here because she loves me, loves being with me. And that's a great feeling. If you could find anything in your life where one person loves you for just you, where you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to do everything right, you don't have to be somebody you're not, and you notice all of these Hollywood people and all these billionaire people, they probably wouldn't have 99% of the people around them if they didn't have the very things that they provide to make them feel special. How is that power? Because if you take that all away, what do they have? Just think if Donald Trump was homeless, or he was working at McDonald's and just barely getting by, do you think he would have the wife that he has right now? Think about some, like Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones, how he was in his 60s married to a 21-year-old. Do you think if he didn't have all that money and fame that that girl would want to see the time of day with that person? So is it really something to be envious about? But that's what they want. They want you to trend. They want you to follow what everybody does in Hollywood. They want you to be envious of all these people that seem to have it all, and yet they keep needing more. They have fake friends and people that are around them for not who they are, but what they can give them. Is that true power? Is that something to be envious about? But we're taught to look up to them and want to strive to be them. Would you leave the very things that you care about to become successful? And if not, then which is more valuable? Thinking about things in another way serves a purpose and a reason, but you have to think about it. You have to see it on a deeper level. Trust your instincts. And like Yoda once said, you must unlearn what you have learned. He should say it is, you should unprogram what you've been programmed. So I want to thank you all for listening to this. If you listen to this entire video, leave it in the comment section. Let me know. And be honest. If you felt this helped you in any way, leave it in the comment section. If you think this video will benefit somebody in your life, share it with them. And if you think this video can help you, watch it as many times as you need. But just remember, we are beings of light. We never die, we transcend. And we're experiencing life over and over again. There is no beginning, there is no end. And just because we cannot believe in something or understand something does not mean it is not what it is. And that's why when they ask your name is I am, and always will be. So you can like what I say, you can hate what I say, you can get information from it, you may automatically dismiss it, you may be one of the people that thumbed it down without even hearing a word because you want to spread your hatred. Good luck with that. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.